This is Tom Bodrovic.
This is Alex Krainer.
This is Sean Alexander.
This is Tanner Naday.
This is Tom Luongo.
This is Mocha Bezergan, and you're listening to Sean Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Happy Wednesday. How's everybody doing today? Silver, gold, bull, my favorite precious metals dealer. Yes, the one and only. It was founded or started here in Alberta, Rocky Mountain House. They offer a full suite of services to help you buy, sell, and store your precious metals, and they ship it discreetly, fully insured, and with tracking straight to you. If you've never tried it, it's pretty cool. Honestly, really cool. One of my favorite things about gold and silver, well, they would say, this is Silver Gold Bull, they would say it provides the ultimate sleep at night insurance policy. And they're going to offer all of you SMP listeners an exclusive offer, smaller than 1 ounce silver coins. I just had a listener text me saying, man, what a great deal. I went and bought some of that, and we're very appreciative. Sounds like they were texting with Graham. So if you, they go, holding fractional silver gives you real optionality in a worst-case economic scenario, while the low premium offered only for you listeners, you have a solid investment no matter what comes to pass. And if you text or email Graham, he can give you all the details. It's only for SMP listeners. So down in the show notes, you can text or email Graham. Once again, if you've never even, well, I don't know. I every once in a while I get a text, like, I'm not really the texter, but, this episode or what have you, this thought. Even if you're not a texter, I would love it if you'd scroll down in the show notes and text Graham at Silver Gold Bull and just say, hey, thanks for supporting the SMP. It does help. Believe me, it helps. Letting them know that you're listening and that you care, that independent media has businesses willing to support them. Talking about businesses willing to support them, how about Caleb Taves, Renegade Acres? He supports the podcast, and in return, he just wants me to talk about things going on, like community notes. I'm like, what a cool thing. So I got a lot of time for Mr. Taves, Renegade Acres, and I want to bring up, and this is more from the back point or the standpoint of the podcast here as we walk into July. So July, I leave with Mel and the kids. We are heading to the States. We're gone for the month of July, and you're going to notice the podcast is going to change for the month of July, specifically for July. Not that much, but we're going to have episodes out Monday, Tuesday, nothing Wednesdays, Thursday, and the mashup on Fridays, man, it's just grilled into my brain. It's the Tuesday mashup. The mashup on Friday mornings, we got special guest hosts. So it's going to start with Chuck Prodnick. Then you've got Vance Crowe, you got Drew Weatherhead, and you got Quick Dick McDick. So those 4 guys are going to guest host Friday morning once a week until August, and then I'll be back. And the thought process is, I was saying this to Drew Weatherhead. If you haven't gone and listened to our conversation on his end, the Social Disorder podcast, the thought process was I want to slow down just a little bit with the wife and kids for vacation, and I want to think about some things here as we get closer to the end of 2024. Obviously, we're only halfway through the year, but I want to really think about some things on where I want it to go, where I want to put my energy in. And so for the month of July, we're going to slow things down. So once again, you're going to see Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and guest host on the mashup Friday morning. So for all you faithful listeners, and I cannot thank you enough, you are going to see a change here coming next week. And so I just want you to be aware of that. The Deer and Steer Butchery. It is barbecue season. And I tell you, we had some beautiful days here over the last over the last weekend, and they want to remind you, don't forget about barbecue and smoking time, which means it's the perfect time to fill all your freezers with the smoking and grilling cuts. You can get a hold of Amber. Yes, that's the new butcheress out at the Deer and Steer. Her number is 780-870-8700. She's got a healthy career when it comes to meat cutting. She was in the Real Deal Meats in Edmonton, and also she worked out in Ontario at the St. Lawrence Market, which is the biggest fresh produce, meat, and seafood vendor in Canada. Or one of the largest. So there you have it. The Deer and Steer. Man, Wednesdays. I don't know. Wednesdays. Maybe I'm still reeling from the Oilers losing. Man, that sucks. twice in my lifetime. I mean, obviously I was born in 86, so I was alive for the run. But, in my memory, 2 Game 7s in the past 20 years, and we lose both of them to teams from Florida. Like, it just frustrating. Let's get on to that tale of the tape. He's a former Canadian politician who served as a member of provincial parliament in Ontario from 2007 to 2022. I'm talking about Randy Hillier. So buckle up. Here we go. Welcome to the Sean Newman Podcast. Today I'm joined by Randy Hillier. So thank you, sir, for hopping on.
It's a pleasure to be here. And thanks for asking.
Well, I go back to your Twitter post over and over and over again, Randy, because I was saying to you, I just give the listener a little taste of who you are, and then I'll hop into my thoughts, whatever you want to, whatever background you want to throw at them.
Well, listen, I'm a 66-year-old grandfather of 8 grandkids, 4 adult children. My wife and I, Jane, have been married for 43 years.
Congratulations.
I'm an electrician. I'm a former MPP in the Ontario legislature for 15 years. Some people call me a maverick. Some people call me a redneck hillbilly with a gun-toting mentality. I'm just a regular fella who doesn't take bullshit for an answer. That's the way I was raised, and that's the way I live. And now I live on a little hobby farm and raise my own food and kill my own chickens and collect my own eggs and collect and weed my gardens these days, as well as fighting against 9 criminal charges in the Ottawa courts, and still have 5 charges for hosting rallies opposing the COVID insanity in 2020 and 2021.
You had, for the listener, they've probably heard of you. I'd heard of you before this, and certainly around Ottawa and everything else. I think your name has been talked about a fair bit, I think. But it was one of the things you put on Twitter. I'm just going to read the start to it. People can then go read it all if they prefer to, or if they would like to. But you'd written, "What's going on? 25 years ago, I realized that a profound and dangerous shift was underway in Canada, which would ultimately take me away from my private life as a husband, father, and electrician into a very public advocate and public personality. My world in Canada were shifting quickly. The values, morals, and ethics that were timeless and inalienable truths of my youth were becoming increasingly rare and seldom shared by the majority of people I knew. The 10 Commandments were fast becoming the 10 suggestions, and the 7 deadly sins were rapidly becoming 7 politically correct virtues." And then you go on to list all the things that you've done over the course of 25 years, one of which we're going to talk about today. But I found it to be a very, I don't know why obviously people can go read it on Substack as well. You have a Substack. We'll toss that in the show notes for you if they want to go read your writing, Randy. But I just found the way you summarized it to be something I think, the freedom community probably needs to hear a bit more of. And that's like what worked, what didn't work, what's some of the things in civil disobedience when you're going to do it that can galvanize the public to not only pay attention, but come to your side, right? And actually support what you're trying to do. Because lots of civil disobedience is for the greater good of the public. It's just trying to win that battle of getting them on your side. And I thought the Twitter post you had really summarized that really well.
Well, thanks. It was just I did up a little video montage. I found a song that I've always liked and put a few of the images of my history in that little video montage. And just, we have a real problem in this country, and it's an ignorance of our history. An ignorance of our nation's history, an ignorance of our community's history, and often Um, and so, I've been a very public figure here in Ontario, um, but for when I started my advocacy, many people that are now engaged, well, a lot of them wouldn't have even been born, or maybe they were in elementary school, um, or maybe they were teenagers out partying and having fun like teenagers are supposed to, and weren't paying attention. Um, so, so I just put a few of the things that I've done in a bit of a chronological or in sequential order. About first uh, writing my thoughts and sharing them as public opinion pieces in the newspapers, and which then led to the formation of the Lanark Landowners Association and our slogan, "This land is our land, back off government," because we were seeing these changes happening, especially so in rural Ontario. And then how that morphed into becoming a member of the Ontario legislature, um, and then well, now a alleged criminal felon for attending the Freedom Convoy. But I think what it comes down to, um, what's important for people to understand is uh, peaceful, nonviolent civil disobedience is the only means normal people have ever had to alter the direction of their culture, their society, or their government, right? And it goes back through history, and in Canada especially, we have diminished the role of civil disobedience. But the a good example where this starts was um, a fella who nailed 99 grievances on the doors of the Catholic Church a long time ago and said, "This is what we're doing is wrong." And of course, that single act of civil disobedience led to the Reformation and many, many great things afterwards. Um, you know, we've, but here in Canada, we have a long history and colorful and and successful history of civil disobedience as well. The rebellions of 1837 to 39. Now they weren't quite so peaceful eventually, but that led to responsible government. The Winnipeg General Strike in 1919, the conscription crisis during the wars. Uh, Hell, even Greenpeace was a Canadian um, um, creation. And they were successful in, whether you like it or not, they were successful in ending the seal hunt and many other things. Um, so the Lanark landowners was just another one of those elements where we saw substantial injustice happening, and we used similar mechanisms that have been shown through history to work, um, and it did work. Uh, the we I don't know if you can see the little sign up behind me in my cabin, but up in the top corner, it's "This land is our land. Back off government." There was tens of thousands of those signs on every fence post in rural Ontario. We these this small group of people who got together and said government is interfering in our lives excessively, um, and how they're behaving is unjust. Um, that small group of four fellas became 15,000 members within a few years, and signs everywhere in the country, and we meant business, and we were successful.
Well, today it seems like more and more farmers are in similar situations, not just in Ontario, but across the world. When you go back, walk us through this landowners group, this Lanark landowners group. Like, what was going on? What was the first I don't know, meeting like? Was this some idea I had right from the get go, or did you guys just go for a quick beer and all of a sudden this idea popped out? And like, tell us the story.
Well, it took a little while to develop. Um, I had met a few. Well, I was not happy. I had been writing columns and opinion pieces um, that were being published in many of the mainstream media, um, and I was living outside of a little town called Carlton Place in Lanark County, and the gun registry had come in. They were wanting to register guns and being able to come in and without warrant and inspect. Um, they were um, bringing in all kinds of uh, crazy concepts that I was experiencing with my children in school. Um, the no touch rule, the kids were no longer allowed to touch one another in school. Um, they had brought in rules that football was too dangerous and you couldn't play football in school or hockey. And then I met a bunch of really, really fine individuals who were in the farming community. Merle Bowes, John Vanderspank, and a few others. And they had a similar story, but broadened out a little bit about um, how the government was actually preventing them from earning a living on their land with all these environmental regulations. So, we had these discussions, and it came out of these discussions that this excessive and intrusive type of government into our lives was starting with our properties, where the governments were suggesting that they no longer needed a warrant to come into your property and inspect what you were doing, or um, and one of the great ones for many of the farmers in Lanark County was this. Um, um, we had just a multitude of white-tailed deer who were loving all the farms here, and enjoying all the soybeans and all the corn and everything else. And it was being a very costly thing to the farmers. And the government was not allowing them to deal with this problem. To the government, the deer were more important than the profitability of our farmers. Um, and and it deer, a farmer can shoot any predator or any nuisance animal on that is destroying their livestock or their property, except deer, elk, and migratory birds like Canada geese. Um, so we challenged that law, and one of our first events was what we call the Father's Day deer hunt, deer cull, and it wasn't too much longer that the government decided to start issuing nuisance deer removal permits to all the farmers in Eastern Ontario. Uh, and, we hosted a big Father's Day rally. We told the government, we told the Ministry of Natural Resources that we were going to be shooting deer out of season. And to come and watch us, come and join us. We're going to be serving hamburgers and hot dogs. We encouraged all the media to come and see what was going on. And sure enough, shots were fired, deer were running, and so was the government bureaucrats and the politicians after that day. They were running just as much as a deer. We had caught them in the headlights of their injustice. And as I said, the government started issuing deer removal permits.
When you say you caught them in their injustice, what do you mean?
Well, it was a folly. It was foolish. It was harmful. The government is here to serve people, not to serve white-tailed deer. Right? That's what government is created for, not to prevent someone from having a prosperous, successful life, but to facilitate and encourage through legislation and laws that you can be successful and prosperous. And, it was just a contradiction that why would they be wanting to protect deer more than farmers?
What year are we talking about, Randy? Do you remember like what year is this all going down? Like what year does this
So,
start?
I think the Father's Day deer hunt was it was either 2002 or 2003. I think 2003, but I might be off.
When you were having you got yourself and I think you said 3 others and you're sitting around and you're throwing around ideas. Whose idea was a Father's Day deer call? And did you have some chuckles like, okay, this is how we're going to do this? We can't just shoot 50 deer because we'll all go to jail for that as the law states right now?
So we're, when we got together, the everybody appointed me as the mouthpiece for the organization for whatever reason, but we would get together and we would mull this through, and like I said, we had very good, one